It's a big game, and it matters. That is straight from Ohio State, which is ready. Well, they used to say, beat Missouri up there, and it doesn't anymore. Welcome to Snap Judgments. They're brought to you by Buyers Auto. That's Bill Landis, Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. And a handful, what do we get? 8, 9 Buckeyes came out to provide some updates, and they're all pretty significant ones who are confirming that they're going to play in the Cotton Bowl, and then we'll have to read into what that means beyond that. But for the next step, having these guys is pretty significant to play Missouri.
Yeah, it was like a big group of 2021 recruiting class guys, which I find interesting. So it's Denzel Burke, it's Tyleik Williams, it's Emeka Ibuka, it's Jordan Hancock, Jack Sawyer, Donovan Jackson, I think are the 6 from that class. It was also Cody Simon, Xavier Johnson, Josh Fryer. 9? 9. So 9 pretty important players who said they're going to play in the Cotton Bowl.
And Cody Simon is also going to return next year. He's the only one of that bunch. Xavier Johnson can't.
He might try to.
It was nice of him to join us.
Yeah.
But this was a day to talk about Cotton Bowl decisions and the NFL draft. And Xavier Johnson was just like, hey, guys, I'm going to be pretty important one way or the other for this game. And then everyone's like, well, but you don't have another decision to make. Why are you out here?
So, why are you out here? That's a great question. Why are you out here?
Yeah.
He's out here because he's a leader of the team. And this is a team that, for the first time really in a handful of years, we see a group of Ohio State players that says, I'm not content with the way this finished. And they're not immediately looking ahead to the big payday they're going to get when they get to the NFL. Now, that's not to say some of these guys still won't head off and make that decision. But it says a lot, I think, about this team and the way they've handled this entire season and the tightness of this group from the start of what it means to them to be out here and representing Ohio State. And Jack Sawyer said, like, he wants the people in Ohio to have a reason to watch that game because it matters to him because he's from Ohio and he knows how important it is. So Devin Brown, obviously another guy out here who didn't.
I did not mention Devin.
He's class of 2022.
We didn't ask him about the NFL draft, though.
Right. He's the only guy that didn't get asked, are you playing in the game? Because it's like, if you're not.
But he did get asked if he was staying.
Well, which is.
Which he is. He already burned the boats. We already knew that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think it says something in a week where a lot of people are looking at 14 portal departures and going, oh, everything's terrible at Ohio State. The walls are caving in. The sky is falling. When you see that group of people stand up and say, hey, you know what? This actually matters to us. We're not leaving on this note. I think that's something people should be encouraged about.
Yeah. I think even too, like for the 6 or so guys that we talk to who actually do have a decision to make on whether or not they're coming back next year, like Denzel Burke, who I think could be like a second-round pick if he leaves, said even if he decides not to come back, it still matters to send this team off into the 2024 season the right way. So that they're thinking about that, I think, does speak to your point, Berm, that not everything is broken around here.
Denzel Burke probably went further than anybody else in that group to say that his decision was 50-50. It seemed to me, the way the rest of that group talked about it, that they were probably leaning one way more than another, which was to a return to Ohio State. I think there's a legitimate opportunity. I won't speak for them. I'm not spoiling anything. I don't know their decisions. I think there's momentum for a much larger group of Ohio State players to return than we considered in August. And now there's still a handful of people that did not address that specifically in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Tuesday. JT Tuimoloau, Travion Henderson come to mind. Marvin Harrison spoke last week, said he was undecided. That's, whether you want to believe that or not, it's what he said.
Isn't it at least interesting Denzel Burke said, I think we're all playing in the Cotton Bowl? And I don't think he was excluding Marvin from that conversation. Do you?
I don't know. I would be, and this is just
Marv was in that same recruiting class.
I would be very surprised if Marvin
I would be too, but I thought it was interesting that he said, I think everyone's playing in the bowl game.
There does seem to be a thing with that recruiting class that like they all want to end this on the right note before they kind of go their separate ways. So
I think when Marv said that I'm going to be at the Cotton Bowl, that was the real telltale for me. But
I mean, it's unlikely, but I'm just saying, I wouldn't rule it 100% out.
Yeah. So
80% out.
80% out. That's fair.
I'll go 81.
83.
Okay. Deal.
79.
What?
Yeah. Sorry.
That's not how this works.
I don't know. Doesn't matter. So, we can still read and it doesn't matter. Like these guys are probably not going to make decisions until after the Cotton Bowl anyway. I think the people that have eschewed the transfer portal are sticking around, want to play in the Cotton Bowl, and have not come to a definitive decision, or at least one that they're ready to make public. And I do think that the movement period for Ohio State is probably on hold until after the Cotton Bowl. And that's probably a good thing for Ohio State.
And that's not to say minds can't change between now and then. I mean, if someone like Jack Sawyer, for example, who I think is probably leaning towards returning, goes out and has 4 sacks and dominates in the Cotton Bowl against a good Missouri team, maybe his calculus changes. So you don't know how things go from now to then. But the idea that you don't have to spend every minute stressing about that right now for these players and for this locker room as these guys prepare for a game that does matter, I think is important.
Which one of those position groups with these decisions looming, Bill, is the most important for the long-term future?
The long-term future?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I don't know, man. If Jordan Hancock and Denzel Burke decide to come back, that's a pretty nasty secondary you're looking at next year. I mean, is that the best secondary in the country, maybe? If both those guys come back and you have Sonny Styles, who also talked today. I forgot a lot of guys who talked today.
Yeah.
I think we might have had 15. I said 9.
Well, you were running down the list that I told you to. That had NFL decisions.
Yeah.
Sonny didn't have a decision.
Sonny did not have a decision. But when you think about what that group could look like, if some of these decisions go Ohio State's way, that is, it has to be up in the conversation for best secondary in the country. So that would be pretty impactful. Emeka Egbuka coming back as a leader for an otherwise really young receiver group, I think would do a lot of really good things for that position as someone who can kind of shepherd, true sophomores into larger roles on this offense. All of them really. Tyleik Williams is a disruptive dude in the middle of the defensive line. I thought for sure he'd be out here. I'm a little surprised he's playing in this game, to be honest. And I don't mean that as a knock on Tyleik. I just thought he might be ready to make that move to the NFL. So that he's playing in this game, I think is a good sign for Ohio State.
Yeah.
But
we've all been talking in the last couple of weeks about, we expect Jack and JT to at least play in the game, and then who knows what happens in the middle. But if the idea that Tyleik Williams and Michael Hall, who is not out here talking today, but you don't know, if the idea that those guys are playing in this bowl game is real, that changes everything about the way this game should be viewed from an Ohio State perspective.
Yeah.
That amount of talent that could be returning on defense is something to really think about. Not just with what you mentioned, Bill, with the secondary, but if there is a possibility that, as Berm said, if Jack is leaning towards coming back, if JT Tuimoloau didn't quite get that first-round grade that was projected back in the spring or in training camp, if Tyleik Williams is open to sticking around beyond the Cotton Bowl, now you're not just talking about one of the best secondaries, but a veteran, proven, high-caliber defensive line. That entire group could be nasty, and now you're adding Cody Simon in there. We've speculated for a month that the door was open. Cody Simon could walk back through it. He did participate in the senior day festivities, but he confirmed and went through that process that he'll be back. So you've got that to build around there at linebacker. Not Tommy Eichenberg will not be back. I don't expect Steel Chambers to be back, but you would at least still have a proven veteran linebacker who has starting experience, which sometimes I even forget myself that 2 years ago that this guy was starting and making a ton of tackles with a banged up shoulder. It's a fascinating career journey that he's been on, but that is a group that would be pretty darn scary.
Doesn't it just feel like a really nice mix to regardless of the position, if you can have one sort of stalwart who's been around and seen some stuff good and bad, pulling forward a group of first and second year guys who are just brimming with a lot of talent that we've been eager to see. If it was just the younger guys, oh boy, they're going to take some lumps because they don't know what they're doing. But you can have that calming presence in the room, I think is going to do wonders for a lot of these position groups if it works out that way.
It's important no matter what for the next 3 weeks to get through this, because for guys like CJ Hicks, who I know people always want to talk about, to be able to at least line up alongside Cody Simon over these next few weeks, and I think we all presumptively believe that he will be the starting linebacker with Cody Simon in the bowl game. Steel Chambers, I guess, could play if he chooses to. I don't think any of us are really expecting Tommy Eichenberg to play.
I think Steele is going to play. I don't think Tommy will.
Tommy, just to the elbow stuff, I think it's probably better for him to not try it. But it's important for CJ Hicks to see okay, this is what it takes to be a starting linebacker while getting those reps at the same time. So
it's a really good offense too.
Yeah, those things are all really important for Ohio State. And again, we can project long term what it means when it comes to everyone making a decision after the bowl game. But there's a lot. All of the focus on December 29th is going to be about Devin Brown and the quarterback, but having all of those guys playing on defense changes everything because it takes a lot of pressure off of Devin Brown.
Checking the line movement to see if today's news changed it at all.
If that really moved it?
Yeah.
Ryan Day was not available in here to talk about it, but Devin Brown certainly seems to be under the idea that he will be starting in that game. We have a conversation with the presumptive Ohio State starting quarterback for the Cotton Bowl that will be coming your way on the podcast daily later this week. No movement on that?
So it moved. It was 1.5, and now it's a 2.5.
Oh.
That was this morning, so it has not moved as of yet.
Wow. Vegas really liked the fact that Ohio State thinks it's going to be rolling in with the full complement, huh?
And what do we got here on the plus 120 on the money line for Ohio State?
Okay, well, we'll see what happens.
I mean, Devin said my first start will be in the Cotton Bowl, so I don't know if there's presumption.
Well,
there. That seems rather definitive.
But he doesn't get to name it, right? I mean,
I love the energy of naming yourself the starting quarterback.
I think he did, and I think he did so with the appropriate information to do it.
Okay.
The Buckeyes are not bringing in another quarterback between now and the Cotton Bowl who will be able to play in the game one way or the other. It's not going to be Lincoln Keenholz as the starter in that game. It's not going to be Tristan Jebbia as the starter in that game. It's going to be Devin Brown. So
I just don't like to make presumptions about who's going to start at quarterback for Ohio State. I never have, and I never will.
I love his confidence, and I think it's so easy to understand why the team has always sort of rallied around him as a guy that they trust. Not to say they didn't with anyone else, but I do think that there was a vibe throughout the summer that the guys that they were playing with in this room didn't care who the starter was going to be. They were like going to be comfortable, and Devin's way about him, he just doesn't seem to really be shooketh by much.
No. Two things. So I asked Jordan Hancock, Denzel Burke was asked, Emeka Egbuka was asked, and I think that maybe others were asked too about what's up with Devin Brown? Like, if you want to see him play, what do we expect? And the two things that everyone said were he's elusive, he can extend plays, and he can really throw the deep ball. So if you're trying to get an idea of what this game might look like offensively for Ohio State, I think you might see him throw that pigskin down the field quite a bit.
His issue has been the ability to stay consistent in throwing the intermediate passing game. Like, that's what Devin said today. Like, people said, what's been the issue for you? Getting consistent, being more consistent. Like, that's obviously the same conversation we had about Kyle McCord all year long. That's the same conversation you have about any quarterback in the country, is that, like, if you are not the same player every snap, that makes things difficult for your team. But, like, we saw the deep ball throw against Youngstown State, the deep ball throw against Purdue. Like, he can do those things.
Didn't he have like a crazy one in practice at the Peach Bowl last year?
Yeah. That was like, oh, why are you doing that, Ohio State? Why are you showing people that? He certainly is not short on confidence and or arm talent. It's now just about how do you rein that in and play within the confines of an offense. And I think that's always been the biggest issue with him, is that he is an extender of plays. He is a bit of a freewheeler. And when that happens, things break down. And when you are so confident that you think you can throw the ball anywhere, that's when interceptions happen. And that's what ultimately was the deciding factor back in August.
Yeah, and you can see what would have made that a more difficult decision maybe for Ryan Day in hindsight, because that throw to Brandon Ennis at Purdue was as good as you're going to see anywhere. It was dazzling. It was, on the money. It was put right in a spot where Ennis could make a play and finish it off. And at least I believe it was Brandon Ennis. Feels like 6 years ago, but I thought that was right.
His lone catch of the year.
Yeah, it was, awesome to watch it. Like, that is what the ceiling looks like. And as long as the floor continues to be raised, that's a lot of potential, and maybe why this conversation that we've had for the last 9 days about the transfer portal may be moot and maybe irrelevant. Who knows? But this is a big month for that. And talked to him afterwards, and the foot feels fine. Everything is, after that setback again in November, he said he's 100%. And so he's going to get a ton of reps this month. Kyle McCord is not around to take him. Lincoln will get some. Tristan Jebbia doesn't need him. And then he's going to, I think, probably get most every snap against Missouri. So the floor is his.
It's hard to say whether or not being in this position now for Devin Brown, like, frees him up or allows him to be himself a little more, because he's kind of always that way. It's like, I think if he was having a bad day, you wouldn't actually be able to tell anyway. But Denzel Burke said something that got my attention, which was like, the first day they got out of here for bowl practice, like, Devin had a really good day. And, they've had other practices and they'll have more. And that doesn't mean every day is going to be a good one for Devin. But I think it is promising that the first time he got out here with a chance to kind of run the show and not worry about anything else other than, like, getting better and trying to help Ohio State win a football game, that he had a good practice. So I'm excited for it. I think it's, at the very least, it's a interesting layer that makes this game worth watching.
And it's acknowledgement from Devin Brown, and he said it multiple times today. Like, he knows that Missouri game is an audition for next year. And so, like, If he's got any additional pressure being put on it, he's not showing it, which is sort of in line with who he is as a competitor. He's it's what you want. You want guys who are not afraid to be out here and gonna throw it all out there.
He gets more of those reps along with the rest of the Buckeyes later in the week. I believe that schedule was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the Buckeyes before they're going to send the team home so they can get a little holiday festivities going on until they hit the road to Dallas on the 23rd. So that's a sort of look ahead is how Ohio State is managing this. It's a difficult schedule. It is a crazy December on virtually every account for Ohio State, but the program is putting their head down and getting back to work and wanting to go out there and make the most against Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. So we'll bring as much coverage as we possibly can to you for the rest of the week and into next week. And stay tuned for that on the podcast channel. These are Snap Judgments. They're brought to you by Byers Auto. That's Bill Landis. He's Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward, and we will talk to you later.